All right, here we go. Salute to the family, man. Salute to NBA Nation. Salute to Knicks Nation on this beautiful Monday afternoon here in New York. Another edition of the Knicks Fan TV NBA Report and Bleacher Report simulcast. CP the franchise in the building. My man Dexter Henry on the other side representing New York Post Sports, New York Got Game podcast, and many, many other shows. Shout out to Dex. On today's show, we are going to recap a wild weekend of the NBA second round, including can the Knicks get back on track at Madison Square Garden, the Pacers destroying the Cleveland Cavaliers and putting the league on notice. You had a barn burner in Denver and one of the worst games ever played in the NBA playoffs, and much, much more. Plus the Greek Freak letting it be known, a soft launch, if you will, in the relationship terms, Dex. A soft launch about his future in Milwaukee. So we got a lot to talk about, man. Lock in, hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. So to everybody in the chat, so to our franchise channel members, and everybody watching on Bleacher Report and the NBA Report as well. Let's get right into it, man. Dex, how you feeling, man?
Feeling good, man. Big game 4 tonight.
Big one.
It's a big one for the Knicks. I feel like it's a must win. I kind of got those vibes, CP. It feels like a must win for the Knicks. I'm feeling good, man. Excited to see some good basketball tonight. I think we're going to get a good game. Yeah,
Armand Dutta in the chat says Dex is Mr. No Days Off. So me and you were just joking before we came on live. It's like, yo, well, I got my 8 hours plus, but then I woke up late and I'm like, oh shit, I got work to do. So it's the gift and the curse, man.
Hey, we said CP and I were talking about this before we started. The grind never stops, man. Yeah. Always going. No days off. But hey, we love this at this time of year. It's playoff time. CP's in playoff mode. I'm in playoff mode. This is what we do.
Yeah, no question about it. So let's kick it off since we are in New York, man. Let's kick it off with the orange and blue. The New York Knicks taking on the champs, the Boston Celtics. Game 4 at Madison Square Garden. And Dex, I was at Game 3. At the Garden, man, and everybody, the hype was there, the most anticipated game, everybody was in on the ticket prices, you name it, and everybody showed up except for the New York Knicks. And, look, people was talking about how, the Garden wasn't there for the team and this, that, and the third. Well, listen, if you're down 10 points within the first 5 minutes of the game, it's a little bit difficult to get the crowd back on your side. And so the Knicks have to put an 48-minute clinic tonight, a no-doubter tonight, and win this game, man. History's still on their side. They can take this, but they've got to go out there and earn it.
No, you're right. A couple things you mentioned there. One, with the Game 3 stuff, and you were in the building. But from what I heard from people who were in the building I talked to, they were like, look, the crowd wanted to get behind this team. They're trying to get every chance. I mean, they were cheering on Mitchell Robinson struggle from the free throw line. Yeah. They were trying to urge him on to get free throws. So, look, you got to give the fans a reason to want to get more behind this team. I said Saturday was the biggest game the Knicks had played in 25 years at the Garden, biggest home game they played. This now shifts to tonight. This is now the biggest game, right? And look, I have no doubt that the fan energy is going to be there. I don't doubt that one bit. But I think it's important for the Knicks to start out great in this game. I thought it was important on Saturday, but I think it's even more important today. And if they start out great, the fans are going to get behind that really, really well. They were trying to get behind the team. I could hear it from when I was doing the watch party when they were down 20. They were trying to get behind them. So I think to kill the fan base and the energy there is, a little bit much. Now, CP, the 48-minute game. We have not seen the Knicks play a full I'll even say A to A+, I'll even say B+, 48-minute game throughout this entire playoffs. Right. And they're still up 2-1 in the series. They still are undefeated on the road in the playoffs. They got to start getting it done at home. However, this is the game to get it done. You have to bring the fight to the Celtics. You got to bring the fight to the Celtics. That means starting off from the jump. It has to start on defense. The defense did not look good on Saturday. It was Karl Towns. It is on him. He was not playing up as much as he should. In when it was Knicks were still switching everything, but he was playing back too much. You even saw it sometimes with OG Anunoby, like, come on, you got to get up. You can't have those lapses. This has to be a focus from the start. And CP, I'm intrigued to hear what you think about this. I'm convinced tonight Jalen Brunson is going to be focused from the start. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about that, man. I think he's going to bring it. I think he will bring it in the first quarter. I think he knows he has to set the tone. This is what superstars do in this situation. It's the rest of the guys. Are you going to follow his lead? Is Cat going to give the game? You've been asking for this since we previewed the series. You said, Dex, Cat has to put his fingerprint all over the series. He has not done that. Now's the time for him to have a game. Is he going to step up? Are we going to see something from Mikal Bridges early? OG Anunoby can't have 6 shots, can't have 2 points like he did in game 3. This to me is about setting the tone early, because here's the thing. The Knicks get up 8 to 10 points. Let's say it's 8 to 10 points. They're leading at the end of the first quarter. You know the Celtics are going to make a run. And that's where the crowd comes in.
Yeah.
They're going to urge the team back in. But the Knicks can't be playing catch-up ball, CP. That's not what it could be in this game. They got to set that tone early. And if they do, I think things can go well for them. If they get behind 15, 20 points, you're going to be sitting there. I'm going to be sitting there and being like, here we go again. You can't rely on what happened in game 1 and game 2, even though they had A+ fourth quarters. You can't rely on that formula and go to that well over and over again. It's gonna bite you in the ass at some point.
You can't. This is not Detroit. This is the champs. And who we saw, this is why I said even from game 3, I was like, yo, this is the most important game for them. And while everybody's like, well, every game's important, it was important because ultimately you were going to get a game that was closer to who the Celtics truly are than games 1 and 2. And that's what happened on Saturday. And that's why for the Knicks, you can't play the we're going to come from behind every time. Number one, it's tiring. Number two, the Celtics are ultimately going to keep their foot on your neck. That's how good they are. And give them credit. From opening tip to the close, they were crisp. Their ball movement was fantastic. They got their open threes. They once again, the Knicks got the rebounding edge by 1, but in this series, the Celtics are plus 15 on the boards against these Knicks. They turn the Knicks over. They capitalize. They turn those into points, and they just played a sound basketball game in which several of their rotation were in double figures. Peyton Pritchard was electric off the bench. And so that's why for the Knicks, man, you have to come out there and swing first. And my keys for the Knicks against the Celtics team has been the same thing as it's been even in the regular season matchup. You have to start on the defensive end. Their defense cratered in this one. And again, not to put it all on one guy, but as you said, with Towns playing more in the drops when he should have been switching, it again points to the misalignment of these guys on the defensive end, which he is a big culprit because teams are intentionally going to him to make a decision. So it's either he's in the drops, he's reading the pick and roll coverages wrong, he's on the other side of the screen, and the Celtics really just picked it apart, man. He's got to be on the same page as the rest of the starting lineup, or else the Celtics, you're going to get them into a rhythm, which they got into very, very early in Game 3.
Yeah, and you saw that with Jason Tatum in particular. A lot of in-rhythm three-pointers that he got, 5 of 9 from downtown. The Knicks have to do better on him. Look, Jason Tatum was going to shoot the ball well from downtown at some point. So was Jaylen Brown. This was not going to just continue. I just thought they were a little too comfortable.
Yes.
That was it. Jason Tatum was too comfortable on those threes. They had a couple above the break threes that he just walked right into. That's what you got to limit. You got to make those tougher. He has a propensity to like to take tough shots. If you can get him to take some of those tougher shots, those fadeaways, that he likes to take, he can hit them. If he hits them, you tip your cap and you keep him moving. If he doesn't, you get a win. You got to try to get those rebounds. But you're right, CP. I think we're both on the same page with this. They got to be much better from the start of this game and give the fans something to really get behind. Because the Garden's waiting to explode. Fans have been waiting for this for a long time. To do this against the Celtics, the defending champs, series where nobody gave you a chance. I mean, even you and I picked the Celtics in 6.
Yeah.
Right? And look, because we respect the Celtics. They're a good team. They're defending champions. They're a damn good team. They're constructed well. The Knicks brought it to them in the fourth quarter in the first 2 games. You got to respect that. But to win this series, I talked about this yesterday in New York got game. They got to play complete 48, like you said. You're not going to get 2 more wins with fourth quarter comebacks.
No.
Not going to happen, guys. Not happening. You got to play complete 48, and you got to bring it to the C's.
Yeah. And as you said, again, you look at the box score, you see Brunson, 27, 7, and 4. I didn't think it was a good Brunson game. I was not impressed with his game.
Agreed.
Cap has to dominate from the onset. Cat has to dominate, and we'll see what the impact is. There was talk, did he break his hand? Did he break his finger? He's not on the injury report tonight for tonight's game. So again, they cannot afford to win games with those two guys being average. They have to be dominant. And again, it doesn't mean that they just have to go isolation and kill. The ball movement still has to be crisp, and it just hasn't been. They have to play fast with pace against these guys, move the ball, force these guys into rotations, and then you can get your shots into rhythm. And then when you got to go to these guys, like with Karl-Anthony Towns, you got Al Horford on you got to be dominating early, man. You got to be dominating early, man.
Yeah, because when the Knicks have played well in this series for 2 quarters, fourth quarters of game 1 and game 2, they've done everything CP just said. They've played with pace. They've moved the ball. They've taken advantage of the mismatches when they were there. Cat's been good. It was, game 2, second quarter, barbecue chicken against Al Horford. You got to do that. You got to make him work. The Knicks didn't make anybody work. I agree with you that Jalen Brunson, his game was subpar. It was below his standards. I think he would be the first person to say that and say that he's got to be better, and did say that. One thing I think fans are not going to want to hear, CP, after tonight's game is, after game 3, the players came out. Josh Hart said this, Tibbs said this. They didn't play with urgency. Well, look, if you don't got urgency for this game, what are we talking about here, right?
Right.
You got it. So, and that's something, listen, fans are not going to want to hear that.
And the thing, not to cut you, bro, they had 2 games off. They had 2 days off.
Right. So you had 2 days off. You guys know this. I know the players are not around for all the history that some of us have been around covering the team or rooting for this team. But you understand what the stakes are going up 2-0, coming back home. You know who you're playing, all this stuff. Urgency, and I understand it's a lot of player speak of what they're going to say after, and just like, oh, we didn't come out with the requisite energy. But listen, when fans are paying $900 to sit up in the nosebleeds, ain't nobody trying to hear that.
Right.
Nobody's trying to hear that. You know what I mean? So it's like you got to come out and play with the requisite urgency. And I really feel like when you're the underdog in a series like this, and you took the first 2 games on the road, and it's 2-1 now, this is a must win. Because you can't go back to Boston tied at 2, where the Celtics now, it's the best 2 out of 3, and the Celtics have the home court advantage again. They've got 2 games at home. You got to win 2, and you're going to have to win another one in Boston. You just stole 2, if you want to say that there. So to me, it's a must win, because if the Knicks win this game, now they have to beat you 3 straight. Right. And you still have a home game in your back pocket. It's a huge advantage for the Knicks. I just also think it's a huge moment for the franchise, CP. Because you and I both agreed heading into the series, this was going to tell a lot about this team, what was going to be said in the offseason. Even if they lost, just how they lost, how they looked against the Celtics. This, to me, was a huge series to evaluate this Knickerbocker team. So now if they lose, I don't want to put this out there. If they lose out, the conversation is going to be very different than it was 3-4 days ago.
Yeah.
Very different. Very different conversation. Some people said, oh, they won 2 games to save Tibbs' job. And I was like, you might want to pump the brakes on that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying – I don't think that this game 3 loss is on Tibbs. I'm not saying that. It is on the players. Players have agency, and players have to play a full 48 minutes. Tibbs didn't switch from the switch everything defense. Cat didn't execute that. And this is the point I make all the time. It's on players to execute, right, CP? Players. You got to execute here.
Yeah.
And if the Knicks are going to win 2 more games, it's going to be on the players executing.
It's just like Mazzulla said in his post-game press conference. And look, the Celtics run a read-and-react system as well. And as Mazzulla said, this one was the players adjusting to what they saw out there in the court. Well, it's time for the Knicks to do the same. So let's see how they come out. Shout out to Artman, formerly known as Steve. Franchise Channel Member $10 Super Chat says, fellas, defense is key. OG has to pull up. McCall has to pull up. Cat has to pull up. Deuce has to pull up. We need Brunson to pull up also, but we need 8+ assists from him. Knicks have to hit their threes. No question. But I think on a team that is limited in terms of their true spot-up shooters, the ball has to move. The ball has to move to find these guys with nice catch-and-shoot opportunities and rhythm and playing with pace to get them in transition, get them going downhill to the basket, turning the Celtics over. That's how you get the crowd involved. The crowd is going crazy. Like, it's a complete team effort there, and you can't just be standing around ball watching, waiting for magic to happen. So I definitely agree with Steve, though, that they have to start on the defensive side of the ball. And speaking of which, Dex, there was conversation after Game 3. Is it time to start Mitch? Is it time for the Block Nest Monster to be inserted into the starting lineup? I've been calling for it since the Detroit series. People want to see it now. What do you think?
So I talked about it this week on New York Got Game because we had to. Everybody's been talking about it. I'm conflicted on this. So I'll put it like this because I don't want to contradict myself on this because you and I talked about this when we had Macri on preview the series. This is a series where you want to see Tibbs make adjustments. And obviously he made the first adjustment in switching everything, a defense he hadn't shown all year against the Celtics. And I respect that because sometimes people say Tibbs hasn't made the adjustments in the playoffs. He has. He showed you here in the series. Now you're wondering, is there another move to be played here? I think the advantage of playing Mitchell Robinson, starting him, I should say, is you're going to force the Celtics early to decide what they want to do and how they deal with him, right? If you play him till they get in the bonus, right? If they get in the bonus and then they want to play the Hack and Mitch game, maybe you pull him out then. But it does start to dictate the game a little bit different early. I think it could really help the team if they do that. And I guess part of me is kind of like, why not? At this point, why not? I'm not saying if you do this up 2-1, you look like the desperate team. And to be honest, who cares how you look? It's about trying to win. We're trying to get these W's, right? So if you want to get these W's, you have to try something new. I think where, for me personally, CP, I'm very much as a coach or a player, you want to try to dictate the way you play on the series. You want to force the other team to react to you. That's why it's a chess match here in the playoffs. So if Tibbs made the move, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think what's probably more likely is I wonder if he goes with the same starting lineup for one more game. And if this is let's say it's a close game at the half or the Knicks are down 5 or 6 points or something, maybe he makes a switch at the start of the second half. My only trepidation, I'm kind of for it. My only trepidation is how does it affect the rotations after, the substitutions after? Like, how does that affect the time where you're sitting Cat at the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter? Do you then have to play a little bit of Precious Achiuwa minutes? Are you comfortable with that? Yeah. No, Precious did not look bad on Saturday in his 6 minutes of play. He didn't look terrible, but how much minutes are you going to give him? I think that's the thing. But honestly, if you're trying to win these games, rotations be damned. You got to do what you got to do. So I said I'm on the fence, but I think I'm leaning for it. I wouldn't be opposed to it if Tibbs did it all. Wouldn't be opposed to it.
I don't think he does it, but I would like to just see them go to it earlier because, again, it kind of hedges against the Hacker Mitch because let's be honest, like you have a sector of the fan base that's like, oh, you can't play, he's unplayable. They can't win this series without Mitchell Robinson, point blank, period. They can't win anything without him, period. Defense, rebounding, period. Yes, the free throws is a concern. You're going to have to live with it. They cannot win a series. They cannot win games without him. That's just point blank, period. So I would love to see him start. As you said, the rotation gets a little iffy because then you may be looking at Hart and Precious minutes simultaneously, which is not necessarily ideal. So you'd have to kind of stagger it accordingly. But, again, maybe if you go to him earlier, it puts pressure on the Celtics to say, all right, are they going to start their fouling early and potentially getting the bonus later when he's not in the game? Then that's more advantage Knicks. But, look, from what I saw from Cat at the 5 defensively in Game 3, the fact that the Celtics are up plus 15 on the boards on the Knicks in this series, you have to control possessions against this team, bro. You have to give yourself extra opportunities to get buckets against them, and you have to limit their abilities to get those second chance opportunities to rain threes on your head. The rebounding battle is crucial to the Knicks' defense and their offense as well. That is why you have to live and die with the Mitch situation, or else you have no shot.
I love that point you made about how crucial it also is to their offense, because let's keep it a buck. The Knicks offense has not been good, right? It has not been good at all throughout the playoffs. I want to say just this series. It has not been good throughout the playoffs. And I know that sounds crazy. Here we are talking about how it hasn't been good, and this team is up 2-1, which says a lot about their fight, their grit, their ability to be clutch in late game situations, which is a great trait to have. But CP, you're right. Basketball is all about winning possessions. That's what it's about. You got to win it on both ends. That's how you win games. The Knicks won more possessions than the Celtics in the first two games. They did a lot of it late, but that's how they won. You saw what happened when they didn't do that in game 3.
Right.
If you can keep that, I've been saying this, if the Knicks are within 5, +5 or -5 in the rebounding battle, it's a close game, they've got themselves a shot. Once you're talking about +10, they're -15 overall in the series, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage there. And Mitchell Robinson does so much in creating second chances for you, limiting the second chances, as you said, for the Celtics. The only problem is when he gets second chances and goes up and gets fouled.
Pass it for 3. Kick it out for 3.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, sometimes if he goes up and gets fouled, I'm like, man, like, Mitch, you should have passed that out, because that's kind of an advantage for the Celtics, because now that then becomes a possession where you either get lucky, if you're thrilled if you get 1 point.
Right.
The Celtics are thrilled if you get nothing out of it, which has been happening a lot. So that's the give and the take there. But he does help the offense. If he can get those rebounds, kick it out for threes, or just better shots, that can be better for the Knicks offense, just if they can get more possessions. Because here's the thing with the Celtics. They get up, it's not just the threes, they get up a lot of shots, period.
Right.
And they control the tempo so much, and they're good at hunting mismatches. So you have to try to limit that as much as you can. If they can do that with Mitch, that's it. I'm not against it. I don't think it's a bad strategy to put Mitch in to start the game or earlier in quarters. I don't think it's a bad strategy at all. I've seen some talk, and CP, you tell me what you think. I've seen some talk about switch Mitch, get Mitch in and Mikal out as well too, and put Deuce in. And I'm like, nah, you can't do that. Now you're too small.
Yeah, now you're too small.
Backcourt. You can't do that. So,
I'm not doing that. But they do need to get guys like Mikal Bridges going as well, man. So
earlier, yes.
A lot to think about here. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. CP and Dexter in the building. As you guys see, our guy Eric Newman is usually here, but because we got lunch planned for later, he's busy making the reservations and making sure to cut the steaks up nice, man. We're going to be over at Keen Steakhouse, 3:30, Dex. I'll see you over there. You know what I mean? I'm about to throw the tux on. I'll be over there. And then after that, I'm going to hit the Fan Plaza. And then I'm going to hit the watch party. Shout out to DJ Eric L. Beach, $5 super chat. He says, have to start off game 4 early. Must set the tone early. Don't forget tonight at Slate for the watch party. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. Yes, that is correct. Big change in regards to the KFTV watch experience. We are going back home, if you will. We will be back at Slate NY for the Game 4 watch party. Here's the deal. Here's the real deal. Because of the hype and the hysteria of Game 3, Knicks going up 2-0. It was, we had about 500 people pull up at the Ainsworth. And, hey, needless to say, we maxed out the joint. So we needed a bigger space. And so we're going back to Slate where things have started for the past couple of years for us. That's 54 West 21st Street. And like I said, with Slate, we have a lot more room. And also we got some games for you guys, man. At Slate, you got ping pong, you got pool, bowling, Pop-A-Shot, and the new NBA Jam is also there. So you can watch the game. You can have some fun with us. We do have tables and everything if you guys need your group reservations. Good food, good times, good drinks. We'll have happy hour specials, half off from 5:30 to 6:30. DJ Eric L. Beats on the 1s and 2s. So meet us over there at Slate NY. You can get your tickets at KFTVWatch.com or KnicksFanTV.com.
Yo, CP, that sounds like you had a good problem, you know what I'm saying, in terms of like too many people that couldn't get into the other spot.
It was, listen, man, considering, like I said, the support was tremendous. We appreciate everybody for the support. But, we also got to make sure that we are giving the fans quality in everything that we do. And so, look, the Ainsworth, they've done their job, and they did the best that they could do. But we just got to need a bigger space to accommodate the KFTV faithful, man. It's an experience in and of itself, man.
There you go. Love it.
Absolutely, man. All right, who else we got in here? Shout out to Black Yankee 79 $5 super chats. What do you guys think about Ariel Hukporti playing in certain junctures, which negates the Hack and Mitch scheme? Plus, Cat can play the 4. A lot of people want Huckamania back into the mix, man. Is this a shiny new thing, or do you think there's a legitimate case here for Ariel Hukporti to get some minutes?
I mean, it's not going to happen.
No,
it's not going to happen. Like, here's the thing. I like Hukporti, and I could tell people this. The Knicks are very high on the potential of Hukporti, for sure. CP, you and I got to see him last year. We were out at Summer League. We watched him in that game against the Kings. Him and Kolek played very well, and we saw what he did during the season. Yeah, it's a lot to ask a rookie to come into this spot in a big game against the defending champs. A lot to ask, man. A lot to ask, and I don't know quite if he can handle the defensive assignments that will be required of him in this stakes of a game. I think this is a lot to ask. I like Hukporti. I think the future is bright for him. The Knicks have done a good job of developing big men. But, yeah, that's Hukporti in this spot. Listen, if we're talking about Ariel Hukporti in this spot, well, yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah. But I think we're grasping at straws. Brunson, Towns, set the tone, play some defense.
Facts.
We'll get there. Look, if we got to scramble, put in some scrap minutes for Huck, okay, fine. But, like, we got to focus on the main core because those are the guys that are going to be the key to winning this thing. They got smoked 150-93. Ariel Hukporti minutes is not saving them from that. You know what I mean? Like, this is core issues here for the Knicks and not necessarily what a bench player can provide. They've got to get the proper spark led by their stars. OG's got to step up. But, we've seen them, their 30 assist type of nights where the ball is whistling and they're playing with pace. But it just seems like energy-wise, they just didn't have it. And that was a little, again, disappointing because they had 2 games off. And I was hoping that would have really given them a spark. And, boy, they just didn't have it, man. They
didn't have it. Listen, I feel a lot more confident to have it tonight. Another guy I'm very confident in having a bounce-back game is Josh Hart.
Yeah.
I think he'll have a bounce-back game. I think he's important in doing the little things, but it's going to be important he takes the open shots when they're there. From 3, he's got to do that. Look, I'm not trying. Sometimes it is that simple. The Knicks just have to play better. It's not even that deep. Sometimes it's not that deep. They just have to play better. They have not put a complete game together. They will tell you that. They just got to be better. And if they're better, the thing that I think all of us covering this team, fans of this team, our content creators, everybody out there knows that if the game is close, this Knicks team has shown fight. They got a chance. They're not rattled. I don't think they're going to absolutely be rattled at home if the game is close.
True.
I'm confident. They have a shot to execute it. And I think if the game is close, Boston, despite their championship medal, because of what the Knicks did to them in the first 2 games when the game was close and got tight, they might start thinking, oh, no, is this happening again? Or can we execute here? They have a little doubt might creep in for them. Even though they've done it before, they've been in tight games, they've done it before, a little bit of doubt might creep in, and that's what you want if you're the Knicks to see. Just have a little bit of doubt creep in for the Celtics.
No question about it, man. Great show, great flow. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. Salute to Loki Bear, $10 super chat says, salute CP. Man's been pumping out content for years, so we don't have to be subjected to worst take. No other fan base got this. Let's get this W. Salute to Logi Bear, man. $10 super chat, man. For the fans, by the fans, man. Absolutely appreciate the support. Dex, let's go around the league, man, and talk about some of these games that we saw across the association, across the playoffs over the weekend, rather. And, hey, man, one we got to talk about, and I hate giving these guys a lot of credit, but the boys in Indiana are looking absolutely ferocious, man. They put the absolute smackdown on the Cleveland Cavaliers, 129-109. Just an absolute clinic again, an offensive explosion once again by the Indiana Pacers. Dex. They shot 15 of 35 from downtown, 52, 42, and 80. Slash line, 52 from the field, 43 damn near, 42.9 from 3, 80% from a charity stripe, 37 assists. You had 5 Pacers in double figures, including Obi Toppin. 6 Pacers. Put some respect on the name. Obi Toppin with 20 points. Pascal, 21 and 6. Miles Turner, 20 and 7. And, he had a, pretty average game from Halliburton. But these Pacers, man, offensively, they're looking like a dynamo right now.
Yeah, they're good. They have depth. I think that people probably underestimated what their postseason run to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, even though I think a lot of us felt the Knicks should have been there if they were
Yeah,
healthy.
yeah.
What it did for them, but I think it built a lot of confidence for them. They're a well-coached team by Rick Carlisle. They play deep. I was talking with somebody yesterday at work who was like, how are they doing this? They don't have a superstar. That guy is not that good. And I was like, nah, man, the Pacers are good. Like, one, you're disrespecting Tyrese Halliburton a little bit. And I understand Knicks fans don't want to hear that. But Tyrese Halliburton is a really good player. I know the shot looks ugly. You're like, how's he getting it off? But he's 6'5". He's got stones.
Yeah.
That guy's not afraid, and that counts for something. You saw that in what he did in game 2. This team is good, man. This team is good. Look, there's nobody out there, I'm sure UCP included, you'd love to see a Knicks Pacers Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
And that would be great for everybody. But look, they're good. I'm a little shocked at how bad they beat down the Cavs, though. I'm a little bit shocked at that. And you kind of feel like, is this same old Cavs? I know there's been a lot going on. They've had some injuries. Now Donovan Mitchell with the ankle. But the Cavs, they didn't show up. You got to call it for what it is. I don't want to hear. They had Evan Mobley. They had DeAndre Hunter. They had their guys, and they did not show up in that game. And now they're down. They're down 3-1. You got to give the Pacers credit. They got what they did what they needed to do at home. They took one at home, and they got a chance to close this out. Pacers are good, man. You got to respect the Pacers.
Listen, man, their offense is ferocious right now. I think they are sending a message to the league. I did like them, even though, I didn't necessarily pick them in this series, but I thought that they were going to give the Cavs a lot of work. So I'm not really surprised that they're at this stage of the game, because just the way that when we talk about, how you finish heading into the playoffs and coming in with a hot start, they've done it now multiple years in a row. And so, this is not a fluke. This is a team that has a lot of chemistry. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders. They have the depth, even though, Mathurin has just been bonehead play after bonehead play. He's looking like he can't, control himself out there. I don't know what the whole thing with him and DeAndre Hunter is like. Yo, you're in the middle of the playoffs, man. Like,
yeah, he got a little Draymond Green-itis.
He's got a little Draymond Green-itis. Like, yo, my man, you got to tighten up, man. So they haven't really needed him, but make no mistake, man. Nebhart, he's even though he's a Pacer, man, he's definitely like one of my favorite young players to watch. Happy for Obi. Siakam is Siakam. And they are just textbook right now with this Cleveland team, and they're the more physical team in this series.
That's something I think, to that
right.
point, CP, I didn't expect that. That's what's the shocking part of me. They've been the more physical team. Maybe I was underestimating some of the guys on the perimeter. Nembhard, I knew was tough. I like him too. He's tough as nails. We saw it in the playoffs, hit some big shots. They've got some tough guys, but you look at Neesmith. He's played big and tough. Obi's played tougher than I think we've seen him play in his career. We know what Miles Turner could bring, but the Pacers got a little physicality to them. They brought the fight to them, and that's something. That's kind of what I think, to go back to the Knicks. That's what Knicks fans want to see tonight. Can you bring the fight at home to the Celtics the way the Pacers did to the Cavaliers last night? That's the kind of energy you want to see.
Yeah, no question about it. And for the Cavs, the Spider injury now hurts. We'll see what type of shape that he's in when these guys face off. I believe the next game will be tomorrow. But obviously, if you don't have Spider at 100%, you're definitely in trouble against this Pacer depth. But also in terms of the Cavs depth, like, they're UVA guys, man. Their trade acquisition in DeAndre Hunter and Ty Jerome, those guys have been pretty lackluster in this series overall. And so, who's stepping up for the Cavaliers here offensively? Ty Jerome did have that 21-point game in game 1 without Garland, but they still lost that one. And after that, he's been pretty bleak. And for a guy that's looking for a new bag, not a good showing for Ty Jerome whatsoever, man.
Nah, he shot the ball terribly in this series, and it's not just the offense. The defense also has not been good for Ty Jerome. I mean, obviously, people can look at the fact he got cooked on that game-winning shot by Tyrese Halliburton in game 2, but he's been really poor. You're right. For a guy that had a fantastic regular season, was huge in extending the depth for this Cleveland Cavaliers team, he might have lost himself some dollars here in the playoffs, because people look at that. And then the DeAndre Hunter trade, you mentioned that, the other UVA guy, he was brought here for this. That's a trade that was lauded by many. I think you were actually on with me when we did the trade deadline show when
Yeah,
that trade went down, and you were like, "Yo, Dex, I like that trade," and I liked it too for Cleveland, but he has not performed up to expectations. And Cleveland, best record in the league, coach of the year and all that, and Kenny Atkinson, and now they're down 3-1. I'm not saying it's over, but it ain't looking good.
yeah,
It's not looking good.
yeah. Well, look, some people in the chat saying, well, it's injuries and Indiana's getting it easy. I'm not so sure, even if the Cavs got in there healthy, that this wouldn't be the case. I think the Pacers is just strong right now, man. They are over. The Cavs look overmatched in this
I
thing.
I like you thought the Pacers would push them. I did not think the Pacers would win. This will be up 3-1. I'd be lying if I said that. But I did think the Pacers could push them to 6. I
Yeah,
thought both these conference final series would go to 6. Um, I still think the Cavs will find a way to get this to 6 if Donovan Mitchell's healthy. I mean, that's the other thing about the series. Who are you trusting for the Cavs other than Donovan Mitchell right now to put together consecutive good games or multiple good games?
right.
So look, Evan Mobley's going to have to step up. Um, Look, Evan Mobley's defensive player of the year. He's got to step up.
Yeah, yeah,
It's really not bigger than that. He's got to step up here in this moment. I like the Cavs. I like how they play, but they're looking almost. You talked about the Pacers being the tougher team. CP. It kind of looks like a couple years ago when the Knicks played them and the Knicks punked them
right.
in that first round series. They're looking like they've reverted to a little bit of that. So this is a gut check moment for them. It's a really gut check moment for them. And for that franchise, if they lose in the second round after all the wins they got this year, number one seed, it's going to be a disappointment. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no question about it, man. So we will see what is up with the Spider in terms of his injury. But speaking of injury, man, we got to shout out one of the sponsors of today's show. If I can just get my graphics right here. Shout out to our sponsors for sure. And shout out to our guys at Morgan and Morgan Injury Law Firm. Shout out to our guys at Morgan and Morgan, man. They've been holding it down for over 35 years as the leading injury law firm, man. With over $25 billion recovered, Morgan and Morgan has been fighting for you, man. Over 1,000 offices, or 1,000 lawyers working and 100 offices worldwide. Make sure you guys check out our friends over at Morgan and Morgan. Go to forthepeople.com/KFTV. That's forthepeople.com/KFTV. Or you can dial pound law or pound 529 from your cell phone. And once again, shout out to our guys at Morgan and Morgan for sponsoring today's show. Okay. How about Nuggets and the Thunder, man? This was kind of an interesting game last night. OKC winning 92-87. You had the Nuggets dropping a low 8 points in the first quarter. Now, they were able to capitalize in the third and make a ferocious run, man. They won the third quarter 33-21. But in the end, it was the OKC Thunder who clawed themselves back into this thing and tied the series up. Not a tremendous night for either one of the MVP candidates, man. You had Jokic with, 27 and 13 on 7 of 22 shooting. SGA with 25 points and 6 assists, 6 rebounds, and 8 of 19 shooting. 0 for 5 from downtown for SGA. Well, what do you think about this game, man? Interesting back and forth here.
This was a game where I think if you're a Thunder fan, you're kind of like relieved that they got out of this because this could have gone the other way. And I still feel like you've got questions about who's the secondary scorer if things aren't going well for SGA with the Thunder. I mean, that's the thing. Like, look, they executed down the stretch. They were able to get some big buckets and get it done. But I think if you're the Nuggets, you're feeling like, oh, man, we're right in this. We could have been up 3-1 in this series. We're right in these games. Maybe if we didn't have the bad start here in game 4, this could have been a lot better for us. But look, it's tied 2-2. This feels like it's going 7.
Yeah.
This feels like it's going 7. And I think if it goes 7, the Nuggets are going to feel like they have a chance just because they have Jokic. But the Thunder, that's the thing about me. I like this team, man. I love their depth. I love the amount of two-way players they have. The one thing that just gets me is if they're not a great three-point shooting team. And if they're not hitting the shot from the outside, and then it's like, things get tight, And SGA, what did
Right.
SGA shoot in this game? 8 of 19,
8 and
right?
19.
He's 8 of 19 in this game. He doesn't have it's not a terrible shooting night, but he doesn't have the most efficient shooting night. Who else is that secondary scorer? J-Dub, Jalen Williams, quiet game for him with 10 points. He doesn't really step up in that way. They need somebody else that can step up in that way for them. And I think that's the difference. The Nuggets, if things are not going well for them, you trust Jamal Murray. We've seen him do it before in the playoffs. Hell, you trust Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon, who was one of the great trades in the last 4 to 5 years, he's been tremendous for them as well too throughout these playoffs. So look, this is anybody's series. I think if you're the Thunder, man, if this go, it's going to go back to Denver. We're at least going to play 6 games. You gotta want to end this in 6. I don't think you want any part of a game 7 with Jokic. I don't think you want any. I know you got the home court advantage, and that hasn't meant much in these playoffs, but I would want no parts of a game 7 with that man. None whatsoever. So to me, if you're the Thunder, it's imperative you win the next 2. Obviously imperative you take the one at home, but the Nuggets are also comfortable. They can go take one at OKC. This is such a fascinating series.
Yeah.
And I've loved it. I think it's going to go 7 though. I think unfortunately it's going to go 7. If you're a Thunder fan, and that's dangerous for you if it goes 7.
I'm with you on the Thunder, and that's why it's very interesting, when we talk about, we're going to talk about the Giannis stuff to close the show, but when you talk about potential off-season with Giannis being available, KD being available, and then you look at nights like that where it's Thunder supporting cast, between J-Dub and Chet, they go combined 6 of 23 from the field, only 18 points. Lou Dort is Lou Dort. You can't expect much from him, and then you look at the bench, it's like, we'll see, but do they really have enough to really get through the finish line in terms of just capable scorers, guys that can get you a tough bucket in a tough spot outside of SGA? I think that's why this has been, kind of a struggle for them in terms of this series, but give them credit for pulling it out and getting it done in crunch time. But for the Nuggets, if they even get to 7 is the question, because look at the minutes here. This ain't Tom Thibodeau coaching this, guys. They practically went with a 6-man rotation last night. All right? Look at these minutes. Aaron Gordon, 38. Porter Jr., 34. Jokic, 43. 41 for Murray, 44 for Christian Brown. You look at the bench, Brody, Russell Westbrook at 27. And other than that, you only got 9 minutes from Peyton Watson, 5 minutes from Strawther. So these guys, there's a lot of talk about, with this series on a whole, playing on Friday night and then having a quick turnaround Sunday afternoon. They played Sunday afternoon at 1:30, which is kind of weird. I don't know why they even did that, because you could have easily had this game be a 6 o'clock game and the Cleveland game be like an 8:30 game. I don't know why they put them so early. But I don't know, can the Nuggets even last that long considering they play the short rotation? And these guys are looking kind of tired out there, man.
That's a concern for me. I'm definitely concerned about that. You have 2 players of the 3 you play off your bench in single-digit minutes. And look, this is an extension of the Mike Malone special. I noticed some Knicks fans are out here calling for Mike Malone to replace Tom Thibodeau. I'm like, Mike Malone does not play young players either. Not that Tom Thibodeau hasn't played young players, but you get the point. He doesn't go very deep on the bench. So it's a concern, where you look at the Thunder. Conversely, CP, you've got 4 guys off the bench with double-digit minutes. At some point, that's going to have an impact. At some point, that's got to take a toll. And unless you're able to get a blowout victory, if you're the Nuggets in Game 5, which would be the optimal scenario for them, to get a blowout victory in Game 5 so they can rest some guys, it's going to be tired. It's already taxing on. You wonder how much of taxing it is on Jokic, to your point.
Yeah.
Look at what he shot in this game. Didn't have his most efficient game in Game 4. So, yeah, man, that not having a bench, not playing young guys is sort of to the detriment of the Nuggets. And to be fair, it's sort of the problem that was the divide between Calvin Booth and Mike Malone. Calvin Booth wanted to play the younger guys. He wanted to play Julian Strawther. He wanted Christian Brown to get more minutes, although Christian Brown had minutes here too.
Yeah.
And Peyton Watson's another guy who they supposedly like defensively.
Well,
he only gets single-digit minutes last night.
Well, David Adelman don't seem to be buckling either way. So, you know what I mean? It's like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. But with the new interim coach in there, he's trying to survive. He's trying to get his new deal. He's going with his core. And, again, the Nuggets' lack of depth is still an issue. But, hey, they had an opportunity there to take this series up 3-1 at home. They were right there. but OKC was able to get that done and tie up the series. So again, very interesting series, and it's going to be interesting to see how this one goes as they head back to OKC for game number 5. You had shout out to the Timberwolves. You had the Timberwolves in Golden State getting the victory over the Dubs, and this one was highlighted because, Knicks Nation is going to let you know about this, by one Julius Randle's triple-double in this game. Shout out to Julius, man. Him and Ant-Man doing the damn thing in the Wolves 102-97 victory over the Warriors. As I said, Julius Randle 24, 12, and 10. Ant-Man 36. And the Warriors without Stephen Curry again. Hey, Jimmy Buckets did what he could do, man. 33 points, 7 dimes for Jimmy. He had 30 points off the bench for Jonathan Kuminga. Great job by him, but still not enough to overcome the Minnesota defense and their big two.
Yeah, you got to give credit to the Timberwolves. They did what they had to do. You knew the Warriors would be scrappy in this. Also thought, I got to talk about Draymond Green. I thought he let the team down in a major way, but none of this is shocking because he has let his team down before.
Yeah.
And so, look, the Warriors, they just need to get this evened up so that they can get back to a chance for a best 2 out of 3 with Steph. Would say Steph could come back game 6. If he can come back, hamstrings are tricky, man. You never know with that. They're saying he come back game 6. He might not be ready for game 6. You can't play with hamstrings because you don't want it to turn into something worse. But look, the Wolves are doing what they had to do. Julius Randle's been tremendous throughout this postseason. He's got rid of the postseason demons. I am happy for him. I always thought there was a little bit too much heat on him here in New York in terms of the expectations that were around him. But you listen, he looks comfortable and is at peace. And listen, you always root for everybody to find their happiness and do what they have to do. So it's great to see him thriving. He's been huge for them. Just being that secondary scorer for the Ant-Man and, picking him up. But he's been the key with him is he's been efficient.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's been efficient. And in the games where he hasn't been out of control or turning the ball over, he's looked like a problem. I mean, to be honest, though, this is a great matchup for him. The Warriors don't really have anybody to match Julius Randle. This is a fantastic matchup for him, and he's doing what he's supposed to do in this matchup. So hats off to him, but it'll be interesting to see what the Warriors can do in game 4 because they need – Kuminga gave you 30 off the bench. Mm-hmm. You know what Jimmy's going to do. They need a lot from everyone. They kind of need what they got in game 1 where Draymond Green was hitting some threes. I wouldn't count on that again either. And you need him to keep his head in the game. I also wouldn't count on that. That's the problem with him. You need that to happen. He's got to stay on the floor to be a defensive impact. Can he give you anything on offense? Can you get something from Podziemski? Can you get something from some of their secondary guys? That's what's going to be key. They have to try to survive another game before Steph can come back. How they come out in game 4 is going to be very interesting to me, the Warriors here. Very interesting because I think they can't go down 3-1. Otherwise, I think it's curtains for them. So how they come out in game 4 is going to be huge.
Well, let's see what's up with the chef. Here was Shams on the Up and Adams show. Let me just pull this up here. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. CP Index on the 1s and 2s. We have kicked it over to the NBA report side of things. Let me just pull this up as we see what is going on with the chef and that hamstring. Here was Shams earlier on the Up and Adams show with the update. Here we go.
Steph Curry's dealing with this thing. He's on track-ish to play like a Game 6 situation if they can make it happen. What's the latest?
Okay, the Warriors have to buy Stephen Curry time is essentially what this is.
Yeah.
And he's got a hamstring injury. He's doing a little bit more and more every day. He's doing a little bit of light jogging from what I'm told. He's able to move into his shots a little bit. But as of yesterday and into today, he had not fully ran yet, sprinted, cut. And those are the things that you got to be able to see pain-free before you can even think about making a return. So the Warriors' mindset has been win either game 3 or game 4 back home, push this series to at least 6 games, and give yourself a chance to get Stephen Curry back into this series. And I think that's the mindset. Win tonight. And I think Jimmy Butler it's going to be his game tonight. It's going to be all about him, what he can do. And he put up, what do you have, 33, 34 points in game
Yeah,
3. He put up.
sure.
Jonathan Kuminga had another 30. Jonathan Kuminga had 30 points himself. The problem for the Warriors was they didn't get anyone else also chipping in with, 20, 25 points. So Buddy Hield, Gary Payton II, Brandon Podziemski, Draymond Green, they're going to need those guys to step up as well.
We need that Polish kid to step up. Podziemski.
All right. Yeah, hey, if Pods can step up, that'd be nice for them. But, look, I think this is going to – I like Minnesota going into this even with Steph. From what Shams is saying, doesn't look like he's anywhere close. I mean, it's a hamstring injury with an aging player. Though you don't just bounce back and go full speed, NBA playoff speed. So I would count the Chef out until, much, much later, Game 7, maybe, if they get to that point. But with Minnesota – with their big two, their size, and their ability to defend, I got them going past the Warriors, and I think it's going to be very interesting. Even if it's OKC, if it's Denver, I think Minnesota has a good chance here, man, to get to the finals here. They got to be a little bit more consistent, and we got to see some more bench depth. Naz Reid has certainly been doing his part, but DiVincenzo hasn't been all that great. But like I said, I think that Minnesota has the tools to really get there. And Golden State's going to be in an uphill battle.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think Minnesota has really played well. I think they've shown a lot of toughness in this postseason. I know some people I've talked to around that team that they really start, two guys that came over from the Knicks, particularly Randall and DiVincenzo, they really had their time with adjusting. DiVincenzo had his injury early in the year. They've now been adjusted. They feel good about this team. You're starting to see that on the court. With them. So I thought the interesting thing Sham said there, and I always hear this when it comes to lower body injuries, particularly something like the hamstring, when you're not cutting yet, especially as you mentioned, CP, at the age that he is at 36, that's the sign that has me worried, because if you're not really cutting hard, just light jogging and putting up shots, you could do that with an injury. But until he starts cutting, that doesn't really simulate game action. And until you hear that, you shouldn't be encouraged as a Warriors fan. So keep your eye on that with Steph. But I too liked Minnesota in the series. Mm-hmm. I thought I picked Minnesota in 7. So but I think if they have a chance to finish this earlier, and what could bode well for them, if OKC and Denver goes longer, that's great for them to get some rest. And who knows, man? Maybe we get a Knicks Timberwolves finals. That would be fun. Timberwolves final.
That would be very fun, man. All right, so to everybody in the chat, once again, hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. CP the Franchise, Dexter, Henry on the 1s and 2s. Happy Monday to everybody. We are talking Knicks, Celtics. We are recapping what's been going on around the league this weekend in terms of these past playoff games. Now, as we get to the last segment, Dex, the Greek Freak, according to reports, he is exploring future. These guys are just a bunch of word salad. He's going to get traded. All right, let's just put it out there. The opening shot has been taken here. He's supposed to meet with the Bucks to speak about his future. I think he's out of there. What do you think about this situation in Milwaukee and the Greek?
I think he's out of there. I think this this is what I'll tell people, like the behind the scenes of like journalism sometimes when stuff like this gets leaked. You got to read between the tea leaves here. This is Giannis, I think, preparing to request a trade, but he never wants it to come across as he requested the trade.
Right.
Also, I don't know Giannis personally, but I don't think that's his get down. Like, he doesn't want to be the guy that's like, yo, I want out of here. He's giving a lot to Milwaukee, but I think he also is looking around and is like, I don't know if we could do anything here. It's pretty cooked as far as situation. And he's right. I think he's out of there. I think the more interesting thing is who becomes the legit suitors here for him. Now, our Brian Lewis here at the New York Post reported that the Nets will be all in trying to get Giannis, as they should. I just find it interesting for the Nets in what will be their plan to surround them with competent talent past that, and what's the price. And they've got picks, so they can do that. They're one of the best teams suited to go out and get him. I think Miami is going to come in the fold. I don't know. I'm not reporting any of this. I think Miami will try to be a player. Their name will come up in this.
That's a good sleeper.
Yeah, I think the Clippers are a good sleeper here too. I wouldn't be shocked at them trying to make a move But I don't know what they really have in the war chest. They're a little slim in the war chest. So is Miami to some degree, and it really depends on what Milwaukee wants. Do they want a lot of picks, which I think they should try to get, and maybe some young talent or flexible contracts? That's where the Nets have the advantage here. That's where the Nets can get them. The problem with the Nets is what does Giannis want? Is Giannis trying to go to a situation where he's ready to win? Houston's another team you probably want to look at. But does he fit Houston's timeline? That's also interesting. There's also argument he doesn't fit the Nets timeline. It's really interesting because and here's the other problem. Sorry to go long.
Go ahead.
In this second apron situation where we are, and it's harder to make these trades in the NBA. So they're going to be limited suitors. There's also limited in what the Bucks can get in return. So it's very, very interesting. And look, I'm probably dodging the obvious, but the Knicks are going to get thrown in this. Now, do I think the Knicks have enough assets to get Giannis? No. I'm also, this might be unpopular, I'm not sure it's the best fit for the Knicks and what they're trying to do. The Knicks are in a situation where I think they're pretty much in, and going to get any other star is going to gut their depth even further. And all season long, CP, you and I have been talking about depth issues with this team. So I don't think that's the play. But yeah, bro, I think he's gone. I think it's just a matter of when. Does this happen by the draft? Does this happen in the first couple of days of free agency? I'd be stunned if Milwaukee has Giannis back in a uniform next year. Look, it's tough for them, but at least they got the title.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's tough. This is the, arguably second greatest player in the history of the franchise behind Lou Alcindor when he played there. He delivered them a championship. I don't fault Giannis for wanting to be out because, it's not looking good there in Milwaukee. Not looking good.
100%, man. What do you guys think in the chat? Where is the Greek Freak going to go? Here was Brian Windhorst on Get Up today with his thoughts in terms of potential suitors and what the Bucks might want in return for Giannis. Here we go.
Two things you have to know about the Bucks when you consider a trade. Number one, the Bucks do not control their first-round pick for 5 years. That means if the Bucks are going to trade him, thinking that they're going to tank for the next 3 years and rebuild is not going to happen. They need quality players. And the other thing that you need to know is if you're going to trade Giannis to a team that's going to be a super team, getting that team's draft assets is not exciting because they're not going to be very high picks for the next few years. So you're going to look at teams that have players to trade and other teams' draft assets that they can trade besides theirs. So San Antonio and Houston. San Antonio and Houston. San Antonio and Houston. Pay attention there. And the other thing is Brooklyn, because Brooklyn has Phoenix's future drafts, but Brooklyn's current players not that strong, not as exciting of a player acquisition. The other team to watch, the New Orleans Pelicans. Why would I say to watch the New Orleans Pelicans? Because the New Orleans Pelicans control the next 3 drafts of the Milwaukee Bucks. And if you're going to do a deal with the Bucks and you want to open the door for them to do a rebuild, you may have to go to New Orleans, try to get the Milwaukee stuff out of New Orleans, and then offer it back to the Bucks. Of course, the Pelicans could make their own offer, but I suspect that what they're going to try to do is a 3-team trade. All of these things will be clarifying once Giannis makes a decision and once we see what the lottery results are tonight.
All right, so that was Brian Windhorst, and as he said, the lottery tonight. So we're going to find out a lot. Who gets the number 1 pick? Is it going to be the Sixers? Is it going to be the Nets? Is it going to be the Spurs, who I think I throw my tinfoil kufi on and throw them in the mix? But as Brian Windhorst said, they're going to be looking for young players and picks, and that's why, for the Knicks fan, it's like, oh, man, we wasted all these picks on Bridges and we could have had Giannis. That's not necessarily true. Because you're going to have teams out there that's going to be able to give a combination of young talent that they can rebuild around, ready-to-play players that they can rebuild around, and then draft picks that they can rebuild around. The Bridges trade was one in a unique situation where the Knicks had the draft capital, they had the cap space, and Bridges wasn't making a lot of money at that point. All that factors in when you think about the second apron implications. But like him, I think Houston, it's a no-brainer. Between Giannis and Book, they need to look to make a star splash right now. They have a lot of young players. They have a ton of draft picks. So Houston, to me, makes the most sense. Now, does he help their shooting woes? No. But From a star power stand, I'll tell you one thing: they'll be the most dominant team in the paint and rebounding in the entire NBA. You could paint that already.
Well,
with Houston.
Let me ask you this:
Yeah.
if you're Houston, who would you give up or not give up?
Yeah.
If you're Houston?
Well, the money wise, I think just not even looking at any trade machines or anything. Van Fleet or Dillon have to be in it from a salary standpoint. And if you're gonna hand the keys over to Amon Thompson anyway, Van Fleet is expendable. You know what I mean? Plus,
assuming that Milwaukee wants a young player, I got to think they want. What if they ask you for Amon Thompson? What are you saying?
Not a chance in hell. You can have Jalen Green easily.
What if they ask you for
Sengun? Oh,
Yeah.
You might have to do it. You're gonna have to do it.
So you're willing to give up Sengun, but not willing to give up Amon Thompson, which I agree. I wouldn't do that.
Nah, you can't give up Amon.
What if the deal is? I'm gonna throw a hypothetical deal. And I could be off on the money here.
Yeah.
Sengun, Van Vliet, and Jabari Smith, or Jalen Green. You pick either one.
Yeah.
With picks for Giannis. You doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do it.
Yeah.
I do it.
If it comes to Sengun, I'm giving him up. Amon Thompson, no.
Nah.
No.
That's the future. You can't do that.
Can't do it.
So I do like the Rockets as the favorite. San Antonio, man, I would not sleep on them. You were able to save Stephon Castle and some young players and some picks in the Fox deal. You have Wemby, who, again, with his build, and he just had the deep vein thrombosis and all of that. You got to expedite things. You can't wait around to try to build your way to a championship. You got to try to expedite that and get your window with Wemby while he's still fresh. And this deep vein thrombosis was kind of a concern there. So you never know, man. We'll see who they get in the draft or what pick they have.
Giannis on the same team.
Wemby and Giannis on the same team.
Yo, that is a. Oh my God, offenses are gonna be shook, man. That's man. Just the amount of length you have out there. Defense. I mean, I think Wemby's a future defensive player of the year, multiple time winner. We know Giannis has already done it, and how good he is defensively. That's scary.
Yeah,
that's scary. You'd have to give up one of the young guards for sure. But they've got De'Aaron Fox. San Antonio's interesting.
San Antonio.
Until Wendy said it and you said it now, I hadn't thought about them. San Antonio's interesting.
With his desire to win, I just don't see the Nets situation. Like, they would have to already have, again, and not looking at the books and all of that, they would already have to have something in play. Like, they just went and got Devin Booker or they got somebody else. But, like, to say that just because they have the picks and the young players to go get Giannis, why would he want to go there?
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it for that. Like, unless they sold him on, we're going to get this other guy, which is what you're saying.
Right.
Devin Booker, somebody would make a lot of sense. But the problem is Devin Booker has been saying on the record, I'm 10 toes down in Phoenix. Now, we'll see what he says in about a year of Matt Ishbia's nonsense and they don't change anything. But he says he's 10 toes down in Phoenix. But you're right. Brooklyn, outside of being in the New York market, I understand why they got to put their name in this. I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure because they got the picks, but you'd have to sell Giannis on something else and getting another player. At least with Miami, who I just threw in there, you could sell them on. Maybe we have Bam there. You're in Miami. They have a track record of getting other guys to come here. Yeah, I don't know. Brooklyn would have to have another guy that's gonna be there. I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah. True indeed. No. True indeed, man. So who's your sleeper team?
I'd probably say Miami. I think it's just out of respect for that organization. Like, always watch out for them. They're in a better situation now because of what's happened to them this year, and they traded Jimmy. I think what I'm saying with that too is don't be shocked if Giannis values going to an organization that he knows really cares about winning in the culture. And granted, I think culture sometimes gets a bit overrated.
Sure.
But there is something to the fact of the work ethic and what goes on down there, and the coach like Spoelstra and all that stuff. I do think there's something to that. That's why I think they could be a sleeper. Houston's just so interesting for me, CP, because I agree with you that they should be the favorite. My thing is, does he fit the way you want to play? And does he fit the timeline? Now, I think if you put him next to Amen Thompson, who I have very high hopes for and think is great, I think things could be pretty dope down there in H-Town. He's just older now. Giannis is 30. They have a lot of young players there. What are you doing with Jalen Green? He's somebody who's looking for the bag soon. What are you going to do with Jabari Smith in a couple years? They've got some things they got to figure out, but I mean, maybe you worry about that later. You get the superstar in there. You worry about that stuff later. They should be the favorites. They have a lot of picks. Everything is tied to Phoenix, which is a mess. There's no reason they shouldn't be the favorites. But you're right. San Antonio could come in.
Could be a sleeper.
I hadn't thought about them. Like I said, they could come in. But yeah, I think Houston should be the favorites. Watch out for Miami. I think unless Brooklyn will be interesting if they make some other move before. Like, let's say they make some move at the draft. And I don't even know who that would be. I'm just spitballing out here. Keep an eye on what does New Orleans do? And I think there's a lot of truth to what Wendy said there when he brought up New Orleans. What are they doing with that team? What do they want to do with Zion Williamson? Is there a team like Brooklyn that would want to get him? I would not do that. I don't think he's that kind of player to go and do that for. So you got to remember, it's tougher to make trades. Now, this is why I think when the Knicks get killed for the 5 picks from Mikal Bridges, you hit the nail on the head. It's a unique situation. He was making only $22 million for the next 2 years. That's why the costs and the picks went up a little bit more. There's no guarantee the Knicks would have got Giannis because they wouldn't have had young players to give, and that might have been attractive to the Bucks. So yeah, it's going to be interesting because it's harder to make trades nowadays in NBA. It's just hard. It's just hard.
So your sleepers, the Heat. Some people still got the Knicks as the sleeper. I think JD Sports Talk says sleeper team, the Knicks, if they bomb this series.
Stop, JD.
So let's see.
Stop it, JD. Stop it, bro.
Let's see.
JD,
man.
I know JD wants it to happen.
He's throwing blood in the water, man. He wants heads to roll.
He wants Giannis here and Tibbs out. That's what JD wants.
Yeah, exactly. He wants heads to roll. That's what he's looking for. He's nervous. Yeah. He's scared about tonight. That's why he's throwing him as his sleeper. But throw your Giannis sleeper team in the chat. And speaking of sleeper, man, shout out to another sponsor of today's show over at Bear Mattress. Have you guys checked out Bear Mattress? We'll go to bearmattress.com and get 40% off site-wide with code KFTV. And shout out to Bear Mattress because they sent me a mattress, and it is dope. Shout out to the Elite Hybrid. So what they had me do was, and this was interesting because you don't really do this with a lot of mattress firms. What they had me do was fill out a survey with my sleeping preferences, you side sleeper, back sleeper, whatever the case may be. Do you have any, issues with your back, so on and so forth. And then they pair you up with one of the mattresses that they have. So they have the Elite Hybrid, the Star Hybrid, the Bear Original, the Pro Hybrid. And all of these have different features based on your sleep style. So they did send me the Elite Hybrid. It sleeps dope. As I said, man, I got 8+ hours of sleep today, and I'm feeling good. I'm ready to go for Game 4 at Madison Square Garden. The Elite Hybrid also has almost 4,000 reviews, man. A lot of their beds have great reviews. So shout out to our guys at Bear Mattress for sponsoring today's show. As you guys see here, they are the winner of a number of publication awards, including Best of 2024 and CNET, Men's Health Editor's Choice 2023, Esquire Magazine's Editor's Choice in 2023 as well. And like I said, they only deal that you can get here, because on the site you'll see 35% off, but only for KFTV customers and the NBA Report customers are they giving you 40% off site-wide, and that is with code KFTV. All right, so make sure you guys go to bearmattress.com and let them know that we sent you. Okay.
40%.
Yeah, 40%, man. Great deal. All right, man. So that is today's show. Dex, I got to get ready for lunch, man. I'll see you in a little bit, bro.
I know. We about to hit the steakhouse. Look, I will say this before we go.
Yeah.
At lunch, the steak would have been tasting a lot better had the Knicks been up 3-0. You know what I'm saying? So we got to sit across Eric, and Eric is going to have a little smug look on his face.
Yeah.
And he's going to be like, look, they're going to even up the series tonight. But I'll tell you what, if the Knicks win tonight, we'll be rubbing our bellies. Steak's going to be feeling good.
That's
and,
right.
we're good. But, hey, we got to shout out Eric because Mr. Newman, he's paying his debt. He's a man of his word.
He's a man of his word.
He said what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And, he came through. You got to respect that.
And for that, he's welcome on this show anytime. So, Dex,
anytime.
I'll see you in a little bit. Great show.
See you bit, bro.
Salute to all the mods. Salute to everybody in the chat. I want to shout out Guga, too lovely. $10 Super Chat says the Pacers got punched, bounced back. Now it's time for us, the Knicks, to prove we actually belong. Show them we are here to play. Can't talk all that smack about the Pacers yet. We got to get the toe job done. Knicks in 6. Shout out to Gua, too lovely. Shout out to Sheldon Blackman. $5 Super Chat says we need to lock down defensively early. I think good defense leads to transition baskets and a result, much needed energy as a result. Shout out to We the Captain now, $2 Super Chat as well. Says Knicks got to win today. Too much pressure on them. Well, hey, this is the playoffs, man. Pressure bust pipes. And you got to win or go home. All right, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Salute to the replay gang. Remember that these shows are available in audio podcast format as well. Dex, what do you got going on tonight on New York Got Game?
We got another live watch along. So if you can, you're not at the game, you're not at the Knicks Fan TV watch party, which is great to be in person around other people. You watch with us, myself, Brian Fonseca. We have Candace Pedraza, great journalist. She's going to be rocking with us for this one, for Game 4. See if the Knicks can get a win. That's it. If you missed it, we also previewed Game 4 with Jonathan Smelk. He joined me this week to preview that. And special interview also out with Kemba Walker. Sat down with him, talked yesterday about his time growing up in New York, Knicks Celtics series, all that. Good interview with Kemba Walker. So check that out.
All right, man. We'll see you guys later. Let's go Knicks and tap in with us, man. Great show once again. We out of here. Peace.